Take this world and give me Jesus. Take this life and give me yours. In every season, you are the blessing. Jesus, you are my reward. Take this world and give me Jesus. Take this life, give me yours. In every season, you are the blessing. Jesus, you are my reward. Take this world and give me Jesus. Take this life, oh, give me yours. In every season, you are the blessing. Jesus, you are my reward. Seek you is to find you, to know you is to want you, and I want nothing more than you. See you is to love you, and I can't believe I get to, and I want nothing more than you. And I want nothing more than you. Jesus, I want nothing more than you.
That was beautiful, Cheryl and Jen. Man, what a great way to start our morning together. And as I was listening to that song, I couldn't help but think of these words of Jesus, Matthew chapter 11. So I just want to start out with this. Let's just bow our heads, close our eyes for a moment, and just take a few deep breaths in and out. And just take this scripture in as I read it. Jesus says, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace, and I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Father, this morning we are grateful, just like that song said, that we get to love you because of the way that you love us. And we just lean into that truth and that good news this morning. We're going to worship you for who you are, in spite of who we are. God, we love you. This time is yours. We ask this in your name. Everybody said, amen. Amen. Would you guys stand with us and worship this morning?
Are you hurting and broken within? Overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open Bear your cross while you wait for the crown. Tell the world of the treasure you found. Jesus is calling. Your love is like radiant diamonds bursting inside us. We cannot contain. Your love will surely come find us like blazing wildfires. Singing your name, God of mercy, sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your design, and may this offering stretch across the skies. These hallelujahs be multiplied. Hallelujah, hallelujah, your love is like radiant diamonds bursting inside us. We cannot contain. Your love will surely come find us like blazing wildfires. Singing your name, God of you, church, for worshiping with us. You guys can go ahead and have a seat.
Companies make women versions of the same product and they charge us more for them. Like on average, they say that women's deodorant is 12% more expensive than men's. That's crazy to me. So guys, if all of us women show up next week and we all smell like Old Spice, you know what? And I know that if I looked in your direction right now, we'd probably both just dissolve into a puddle of tears, and I still have to finish this message, so I really can't do that right now. It's probably safest if I just stare at the ceiling. Like, do you want to eat an entire jar of mayonnaise, or would you rather drink a cup of hot sauce? Which is just ridiculous, because obviously the answer is hot sauce, right? Like, who would choose mayonnaise?
But as I heard this song, this was my first introduction to Revelation. You know it, Shannon? Oh yeah, she's feeling it. Here it is. It's the end of the world as we know it. It is the end of the world as we know it. Encouraging, right? It is the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. Do you feel fine? No, I don't. After hearing that. And when Brian said, hey, this is what I feel like God's leading us to do, is this series, Leslie and I know as the other teachers on the team, we're like, no, it's not. It's 2 against 1. He's not leading us to do this, trust me. To Pergamum, to Thyatira, to Sardis, to Philadelphia. That was the only one I really knew how to pronounce that well. Say, we are God's masterpiece. This one's harder to say. I am God's masterpiece. No, you're supposed to say I am. No, I'm just kidding. We gathered with 660 people last week. We had 10 baptisms. It was great to see new faces. We saw old faces, not like old people faces, but like old faces that we haven't seen in a while. So online, by the way, if there's like stuff that's messing up online, it's Keith Groom's fault. So you can just, you can hit like if you like Keith Groom, or you can hit thumbs down. Either way. Whatever you want to do, but it's Keith Groom's fault online for you this morning. But there's a lot of other labels I wear. Now hold your hand over it, and the heat from your hand is going to change the message. Just kidding, it won't do that. Let's see when the last time was I wore this. A little too much laughter for that one. That wasn't that funny of a joke. Imagine like wearing that good news. This is who you are, almost buttoning it up. Almost.
The following week, we're going to kick off a new series called Not What You Thought, a fresh look at the book of Revelation. Yes! Well, don't clap. Wait until the 6 weeks are up and then decide if you want to clap, all right? Who knows where that's going? We've never taught on the book of Revelation, so we're going to tackle it, just a flyby for 6 weeks, and we'll see what happens, all right? We'll either all really love each other, be super excited, or, I don't know, we'll all be going somewhere else to church. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to try it out and see what happens, all right? If you have kids, go get them. Your own kids, please, not someone else's. Bring them in here. And the angels asked her, woman, why are you crying? Which is proof that angels are male. Because only a man would ask a woman a question like that in a moment like this, right?
I think they preached my whole sermon today with the music, so you guys are dismissed. Just kidding. I can let you off that easy.
If you're new here, you might not realize that we are like the worst Christian procrastinators in the history of Christianity. Oops, I'm sorry, I said it for 2 hours. I really did, that wasn't a joke. I'm like, oops, wrong column. I can barely see it, that's why. Did I bring the glasses up? Stacy, are they there somewhere? No? I may have to borrow some from somebody. Where did they go? Didn't I have them laid out there? Excuse us while we look. Brenda? This will be rich, although I'll be really sunk if I don't find those after a while. I have no idea how I lost a set of glasses, but you know, it goes with old age too. Are these cute? You get story time from a sexy teacher. That's what you get.
And There's no time, whoa, there's no time to change the sun. Help me out, Craig. Is he back there? No, I heard somebody laughing.
Okay, what color is the grass? Green.
At us. Now I know why Greg chooses not to be on the teaching team, our executive pastor, because of moments like that. When it's caught on video, they're going to use it against you. So I don't know when you had time to pull that off, David and the team, but we do appreciate that, man. Thanks for that. That was fun. So anyhow, we're going to jump to another video here in a second, but I want to say, Lenny, it is good to have you in this space today, man. Right? If you're not aware, Lenny is a professional tree trimmer and had a horrible accident. Has it been 4 weeks? This week will be 4 weeks ago. So it sounds like, oh, he's here 4 weeks. Yeah, that's great. No, he walked his daughter down the aisle last weekend. So that means he was out of the hospital within 2 weeks. And on my way up there, the day of that accident, we were unsure if Lenny was going to be walking out of there at all. So multiple surgeries, all kinds of stuff. Man, with the head injury, you look beautiful, Lenny. You look great. Yeah, you smile. That scar that's gonna look awesome. It's gonna look good, man. No big deal. Yeah, hair's gonna cover it up. It's all gonna grow back in. Yeah. They went ahead and put hair implants in, so that's gonna start. It's like a chia pet. He's just gonna start growing hair like crazy. It's gonna be awesome. But we are really glad to see you and been praying for you, and what a miracle it was to see you walk back in here this morning. Well, how this is supposed to start is a different video, okay? So we're going to watch that one real quick, and then I'll come back up.
Okay, what color is the grass? Green. Good. What color is my sweater? Blue. What color are my teeth?
Beige, off-white, speckle, ecru, mother of pearl.
No matter how great your smile is, don't you wish it could be whiter? Now it can. New Colgate Sensation White.
I don't know if you guys remember that commercial from 1996. When I started to try to find it, I'm like, man, I'm old, I think, laughing at that. That was literally one of my favorite commercials of all times. And it's true, isn't it? How kids, don't ask them because they're going to just tell you the truth, right? They just naturally tell the truth. No hiding. And that's been the case for all of our boys when they were young, and for Weston, who's 4 right now. Rarely does he hide his feelings. Anybody who has young kids or had young kids know that. We know when he's mad. We know when he's happy. When he's sad. When he's hungry. When he wants to go to Casey's for a donut. When he wants to go to Dawa Chui, that he calls it. And on and on and on. He doesn't do image management. We know what Weston's up to. He's just kind of real, no hiding from him. But what happens in our lives, at some point in time, we start to hide, don't we? We start putting masks over. You don't really know what we're thinking. We start to hide our emotions, we hide our sin, and we kind of kick into this idea that we have to pretend to be someone or something that we're not. And we even begin to hide from God. So we're in this series, part 7, of Jesus, seriously? And we started this series out, this idea of looking at Jesus. Why would we look at Jesus for our ethics? Why would we do that? Well, his blameless life, his authority. We looked at his life, his ministry, the death, and the new life that we find in him. We think he's probably got the authority on this subject. So we're looking at the Beatitudes. These 9 blessings are 9 proclamations of good news of a new way of being. And it was good news to those who were listening. And we're being challenged each week. Each time we're listening to these proclamations and new, fresh ways and remembering, oh yeah, that challenges my assumption too on what it looks like to actually live in the world. So today, we're on the 6th Beatitude, and here it is. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. It sounds pretty easy, So let's start with this question of what does it mean to be pure in heart? But actually I want to start with what is it actually not? Because I think we have some ideas, and this is why I want to start with what it isn't. So I started following Jesus when I was 19 years old, and so I wasn't a kid, but I was still kind of in this youth ministry area, and I had this passion to build into students. So I gave most of my energy in the late 90s, early 2000s to that. So when I hear Jesus use this word purity, blessed are the pure in heart, I immediately go to what I experienced in volunteering in youth ministry at the church that I was going to when I became a follower of Jesus. So during the late 90s and early 2000s, there was this thing known as purity culture. Some of you guys remember that. If you were a youth leader at that time, you probably read a book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye, or 2 dates or less, which meant in 2 dates, you should know who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And if not, get rid of them. It's like, that's how it was. And this purity culture was driven by certain rules and rituals and boundaries and structures in order to express to others so everyone else would see how pure you are because you follow all these rules. So a pure at heart isn't just what's going on the outside. Purity of heart is not defined by just what we do. And also, before some of you get too offended by the purity culture thing that I'm talking about, it was based, I think, on some good ideas and like a good heart. I think that leaders and parents and pastors ultimately wanted to see people like fall in love with Jesus and to be able to like give them their lives and put priority there. But instead, they just kind of put a playbook together that was about do this, don't do that, hang out with this person, don't hang out with that person. And what actually happened was all those rules and regulations, instead of leading to purity, what it led to was shame a lot of times, or self-righteousness. And a lot of times the self-righteousness brought shame on other people. And I have known a lot of people that have been damaged by the purity culture. There were rings, necklaces, papers that you would sign, ceremonies that you would go to that spelled all this out, that this is what you had to do, and it was all very public. And then when you made this commitment, everybody sat back and watched you. Let's see if they can do it. And as soon as somebody failed, or even like appeared to fail, the hammer came down, judgment took place, not just by kids, but by leaders and parents and adults. And this system was set up for 2 things: shame or self-righteousness. That was it. It was a false descriptor of purity. Very damaging to people who couldn't hold up to their end of the bargain, and very damaging to people who did hold up. It was self-righteous. Theologian Scott McKnight, he says, the pure in heart know the temptation of externalism and the social honor that comes with being pure in hands, pure in observance, pure in reputation, not pure in heart. And Jesus actually warns and speaks to this too. He says, watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. So before we look at what purity is, we've got to retrain our minds and understand this is what purity isn't. It isn't just what's going on the outside. And also, purity is not just what's happening on the inside. Because what happens a lot of times when we leave the idea of the outside and we've been hurt by shame, we want to go to the inside and we want to run away from it. And sometimes we move inwardly and think, okay, well, it's just about my good intentions, my inner faithfulness. And you might even begin to categorize things like this. I spend time with God and pray, and I know my heart, and God knows my heart, and only God can judge me, and it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what you think. I won't seek this outward expression of faithfulness. I'm just going to do my own contemplative, quiet practice and know that that's good enough. Now, there's some truths in there, but the problem is that when we run from shame, we actually go to a place that's not all that healthy, and it's actually we run into hiding and this false reality that it's just about what's going on the inside. No one else matters. I don't have to let anyone else in. And if we're honest with ourselves, we're really not even letting God in to those deep hurt places in our lives. So you've heard the expression, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What is it with these old expressions? They're terrible. Like the nursery rhyme song, the cradle will rock and the baby, what is it? The cradle will break and the baby will fall. Like, as I was thinking, oh, I'm going to sing this to my kid when he was first born, I'm like, this is a terrible nursery rhyme or whatever it was supposed to be. But we're going to lean into this don't throw the baby out with the bathwater today. And here's what I mean by that. Just because someone has put a bad expectation on this outward expression, that like that's the point, it doesn't mean that our outward expressions don't matter. They do matter. Sometimes it's evidence of what's going on in our life. Look what James says. He says, what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you say to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it's not accompanied by action, is dead. So the problem with only focusing on what happens on the outside, that's my effort. That's up to me. Like I'm going to fail on that or I'm going to do good on that, all based on me. Rules, religion, staying away from this, staying away from that. And what happens in those moments is we're actually distracted. We're trying to do all this stuff and we're distracted what it actually means to be pure in heart. And we totally miss it because we're wrapped up in our own efforts of doing this. Or when I'm focused only on the inside and I run away from that extreme and I go to this other extreme, I'm actually hiding and I am not actually being real with God or anybody else. And the focus is still back on me. So it's on me over here or it's on me over here. Both are distractions from having pure heart. But like we say every weekend, there's good news. And here's the good news this morning. Our world offers continual distractions that overwhelm us and keep us from purity of heart. But when we have a single-minded focus on God and His love, so important, we will notice Him at work in and around us. When we're focused singly on God and His transformational love, we begin to see that work in our lives. So what a pure heart is meeting God in reality. Today, whatever brokenness we carry in here, whatever good deeds we think we have, we meet Him in reality without shame, no hiding, and allowing Him to do the transformational work in us and through us, through His incredible love. That's the purity of heart that Jesus is inviting the disciples into. The kind of purity of heart, the good news that these early listeners were listening to, the good news that actually changes lives and changes the world, the kind of good news that draws us close to God and each other. Single-minded focus on God and His love. It takes the focus off our efforts, and it actually puts the focus on the one that can actually bring purity into our lives. See, when I'm focused on His love, I'm looking at God who loves me and responds to me. And He wants to meet me in reality. And by the way, reality is the only place God can really meet us anyway. Can't meet us in the past, can't meet us in the future. He meets us now in everything that we're going through. I don't have to hide from Him. I don't have to run from shame. And I don't have to prove my worth to Him. So what He's asking us to do is to follow His way of love, to be real with Him, and to invite Him into all areas of our lives. Now, because our ears are trained to hear performance, this is much of how we live our lives, and this is how we hear. We listen of how can I do better? How can I be better? We may not grasp really how good of news this is. It's such good news. To His early listeners, this was game changer news. Because the way that they had always heard about purity, Jesus is coming in and explaining something totally different to them. Remember, Jesus, the Sermon on the Mount, he's gathered all of these outcasts and the weary and the neglected and those who have been oppressed by the Roman Empire and a political system that's robbing them. Like, these are the people that are gathered here, and they're hearing this purity of heart against these. They just heard 5 other Beatitudes that are just changing their world. Imagine they're sitting there. They're living in a corrupt system. They're being robbed. They're outcast. Maybe there's somebody sitting there and they can no longer join anybody at a table or anything because of the disease that they have, and they just have to sit outside the gates and beg and have no relationship with anyone. They're living in a terrible, broken system. And then Jesus comes along and says, hey, all of you outcasts, imperfect people, guess what? The kingdom is for the perfect, the imperfect. You don't have to be perfect. Matter of fact, it's in our brokenness that allows us to make more room for God and his goodness. He's saying, hey, by the way, those of you guys that mourn, that's lost something deep, you know what? You're going to be comforted with the good news today and for what things will be like. He says, those of you guys that have faced all this humiliation, hey, the hurt is real, but the humiliation is based on a lie. Because here's the reality, we're all equal in God's sight. We're all equally loved. And he's saying, when you live that way, you're going to inherit something that cannot be bought. Real life, full life. He leans in and says, hey, I know that you're born with this hunger and this desire inside of you, but listen, all the things of the world that you hunger and thirst after, that's not going to bring you fulfillment. You find fulfillment in the love of Christ. Whenever you have right relationship with him, it lets you have a right relationship with yourself and other people, and that's how you'll be fulfilled. And he says, hey, by the way, this culture of judgment that we're living in, all you people that are feeling judged all the time, the way it really works in the kingdom is this. You've been shown mercy. No judgment. And then we get to offer that same mercy to others. So they're standing there and they're listening to all this stuff and they're going, wow, this is crazy. And then they hear, hey, by the way, purity isn't about trying harder and making sure that you have it all worked out on the outside. It's not about running and hiding in shame. It's about a new way of being. Purity is good news. There's new hope that God has this incredible love. And that when we get to meet him in reality, we get to see how he responds to us. And it transforms our lives. And we get to help transform the world. It was radical good news for them. Our world offers continual distractions of what it looks like to have purity. But when we have a single-minded focus on God and his love, we will notice him at work in and around us. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And what does that look like, to see God? Like when we have purity of heart, like, will we see God? Will I glow like Moses when I see him? That'd be cool. Just walk around glowing. Like, what does it look like to see God? Here's what we believe that Jesus is talking about. To notice God at work in and around me. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will begin to see him. They'll begin to see him in all areas of their life. They'll begin to see the work that's taking place in our hearts, in our lives. They'll begin to see the work that's happening in us and through us and around us. When we remember that God looks just like Jesus, and when we let him meet us in reality and know these truths like he's always worked and present, and when we choose to quit hiding, or when we choose to stop looking at our outward appearance, what happens is this. We begin to see God, and he begins to transform our heart. And what happens when we hide from God, or when we try to do this all on our own, we don't actually get to see God for who he is. Do you know that? Like, if Weston always hides from me when he does something wrong, he doesn't ever get to see what it's like to come to his father and to say, hey, Dad, this is what happened. And to see me react to him and say, it's okay, bud. I still love you. Have you ever had a moment like that with one of your parents or somebody that you've wronged, and they come to you, and when you come to them and they just say, it's all right. It's not a big deal. What happens to you in that moment? Like, something good happens inside of you, doesn't it? And what happens when we're real with God and we get to let him respond to us, we are drawn to respond back to him. Like, it's a beautiful thing. He begins to transform our lives. And the more that we're open and real with him and not trying to be pure on our own or not hiding from him, the more that we're just meeting him in reality, all of a sudden what happens over time is we become more loving. We become more patient. We become more Christ-like. We become more gracious. We begin to offer that same grace and love to other people. We begin to see God for who he really is, in spite of who we are. And we get to see that work that's going on inside of us. And we get to see how that shows up in this world through us. Our world is going to offer continual distractions that overwhelm us and keep us from purity of heart. But when we have a single-minded focus on God and his transformational love, we will notice that work in us and around us and through us. Now, I don't have this figured out. So there's the bad news. I'm still working on this. I'm still figuring out how to respond to this and how to let God meet me in reality. There's times that I want to run and hide. There's times that I want to feel shame. But here's how this starts with me. Here's the best way that I know to respond to it, is I have to remind myself who God is, that he looks just like Jesus. Your view of God matters so much, because if your view of God is this, he's going to be upset with me. He looks down at me with shame. If that's your view of God, you're going to hide. If your view of God is, I have to perform really hard to make him love me, then that's all you're going to be focused on. If your view of God is that he looks just like Jesus, full of grace and mercy and love, then you're going to be able to approach him with whatever it is. You're going to let him meet you in reality. And when I'm learning to do that, I'm beginning to see who he is. Anybody else in here broken? Have bad thoughts? 3 of us, 4 of us? Sin, struggle with things, struggle with anger, get frustrated at your kids, get frustrated at your spouse. You got patience this long until somebody does something, then it's gone. You lose it. Like, we all struggle with that stuff, right? This is who we are. Inherently, there's sin and stuff and yuckiness in our lives. And we're either tempted to cover it up in shame, or we're tempted that we have to go out and do better. And neither one of those things are going to fix any of that stuff. What we have to do is meet with the Father and know that he looks just like Jesus. And let him meet us and say, Tim, it's okay. I love you, man. Let's go deer hunting. That'd be good, right? To just let him meet you there. And here I think is why we begin to hide in the first place. 2 reasons. I think this misview of God and what he wants out of us and from us, rather than that he just wants us and to be with us. So we think we have to start performing, and we think we have to operate out of guilt and shame. And I think the other thing is we just get it wrong a lot. So as parents, like, what I want more than anything is my boys to be able to come to me with whatever it is. But unfortunately, I haven't always handled those things right. Like, there's times where I just get frustrated. So you know what happens in that moment? They kind of operate out of, I better walk the line with dad. Or they come to us and we're really disappointed about something, and then they feel guilty. And the more that we live that way, the more people go into shame and hiding. And the more that people go into, I've got to prove myself and I've got to do good. But so is the flip side. The more that we let God meet us in those realities, and the more that he transforms our heart, the more that other people begin to see what that's like, and the less hiding takes place, the less shame takes place, the less performance takes place, and more authenticity in relationship with God and other people take place. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God at work in them, through them, and around them when we're real. Your world will continue to offer distractions that are going to overwhelm you and keep you from purity of heart. But when you have a single-minded focus on God and his love, you will notice him at work in you and around you and through you. It is a wonderful thing. I love this scripture of the psalmist. He says, "You've searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You're familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lawfully for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? Nowhere. Why do we want to run and hide in shame? Why do we want to have to prove ourselves when God is already here and present and at work in our lives, and he already knows it all anyway? Let him just meet you. So I think a good response for us this week to this good news as we go out is to just practice this. Remind yourself of the reality of who God is. He's at work in your life. Be real with him in some way, whatever that might be. Open up, own something with that. And then be aware. More aware where he's at work. And just practice that every day. Matter of fact, let's practice that before we go. Let's do this. Let's just bow our heads. Close our eyes. And start by now acknowledging his presence. And just reminding yourself that God is always present and at work, and that he looks just like Jesus. Just say that to yourself over and over again. God looks just like Jesus. Grace, love, acceptance. And as you focus on that love, what will happen is shame will begin to go away. Try harder is going to feel pointless. And just remind yourself, God looks just like Jesus. And as that shame begins to go away, just own something with him. Something maybe you depend on too much, or area that you struggle in. Just imagine Jesus truly meeting you in that. And imagine him responding with love and grace, because that's how he's going to respond. And rather than committing to do something different, just surrender to the fact that he loves you that much. And then out of that, just tell him, I'm going to be more aware of where you're at work today, in my life, in me, around me, through me. God, you look just like Jesus. I can bring my whole self, the good, the bad, the ugly. Give it to you. Allow you to transform it. And when I see your goodness and how you respond to me, it draws me to respond to you through love and your creation, through love and grace, the same acceptance I've been given. Father, help us this week to be aware of your goodness and your presence in our lives. Blessed are the meek, for they will see God. Amen. Well, that is good news to me. I hope it is to you as well. And I hope you practice those simple things and respond to that. And as we get ready to go, I want to remind you of a couple things coming up. Number one, if you don't have our app, you should download it. By the way, if you're visiting with us, I see a few guests. I haven't had a chance to be able to say hey, but we're glad that you guys are here. And our app is a great way to be able to know more about us. It's My MHC, My Meadow Heights Church, and we've got all of our information on the app. But one thing that's coming up is the Meadow Heights Fall Fest. Everybody say Fall Fest. Fall Fest. Yay. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be at our house on November 2nd. It's a Wednesday. A Wednesday evening, 6 to 8. We're going to have a hayride. chili cook-off, and hot dogs and s'mores and about 8 fire pits scattered throughout our yard. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a good time. So your whole family can come. Invite somebody to come with you. It's going to be a good time. If you haven't signed up for the chili cook-off and you want to, you can do that. There's a place on the app to sign up for that. We're going to have some legit chili judges showing up to judge your chili. So if you haven't felt intimidated, you can now. And if you haven't entered your award-winning chili recipe, you might want to do that. Get your chili going and bring that out there. You can bring it out a little early. All the info's there when you sign up as well. And there's a pretty sweet trophy, right, David? I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. You're going to want it. You're probably going to replace the picture of your family over the mantle and just set it up there. But it's going to be a great time, so come out and do that. Operation Christmas Child collection begins this weekend, actually. There's boxes out there in the Welcome Center. If you want to pack a shoebox, you can use some of those. You can use plastic boxes. We have a goal of 500 between Fredericktown and Farmington that we're going to help send these boxes and love to children all around the world. On the app, you can actually pack a box. So if you're saying, I ain't got time for that, then just go on the app and you can click on there and you can see how to pack it. You can pick some things on there and boom, it's packed. So what you need to do though is once you pack boxes, you need to let us know how many you've packed. There's also on our app, there's a place you can click there just to let us know how many you packed. That way we can keep track of this goal. So it's a wonderful goal. If you came to give today, the buckets are there in the front and in the back. And if you give online, thank you guys for giving in that way. We're so grateful for you. Would you stand to your feet? Blessed are the pure in heart, the real, the authentic, meeting God in reality. And I promise when you do, you will see him at work in your life, in and around and through you. You guys are dismissed.
you.